Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode number 73 of Imprint Cast, the podcast dedicated to the Australian boutique label Imprint Films. My name is Tony Michas, and joining me as always is my partner and colleague, Mr. John Mathews. John, how are you doing today, good sir?
Yeah, doing good. I'm really looking forward to this chat, so thank you for arranging it. So yeah, doing well, thank you, on this Saturday morning.
Saturday morning our time, Friday evening for our guests, but we'll get to that in a second. And of course, joining us is our Imprint Cast family member, Miss Suzanne Boleyn. Suzanne, how are you doing today?
Hello, I'm good. I'm out of my coffin early today. It's early in the morning here for this episode to talk about one of my favourite Italian horror films and maybe one of my favourite horror films. I'm just pointing to the poster behind me for the audio listeners.
Yeah, that's okay. Looking forward for this discussion, I can tell you that. And we have two special guests joining us today. Our first guest, they have been on the show before discussing their favourite film of all time, The Wicker Man, 2 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long since we had them on the show, but it's so good to have them back. Welcome back, Celeste de Cabra. Celeste, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for the lovely introduction. It's nice to be back. It's hard to believe it was that long ago, but I'm thinking about it and where I was in my life at that time, and that sounds about right, actually. I do have the imprint box of The Wicker Man in my backdrop, so that's...
yes.
That's yeah, I'm doing okay. I think the spirit of the devil is alive and well in my heart and soul. The Antichrist is growing within my womb, so I think we're doing okay in terms of... power and prestige and prepping for this conversation.
Excellent. I'm just glad that you're here with us again. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Yes, long overdue. So.
Absolutely. And lastly, and certainly not least, is making his Imprint Cast debut. He has been a film critic for quite a while, and he's also an author of the book, The Fright File, 150 Films to See Before Halloween. Please welcome Mr. Dustin Putman on the show. Dustin, thank you for being a part of this show and welcome aboard. How you doing?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. I've listened to many episodes of the Imprint Cast, and I feel very blessed or cursed to be on today with all of you.
We wouldn't have it any other way, especially for this film in particular we're going to be discussing. But before we go in any further, Dustin, since this is your first time on the show, we always ask this question. How did you first hear of Imprint Films?
Yeah, I was looking it up because I keep track of everything that I own, so I wanted to go back and see what the first films were that I had bought from Imprint. And it turns out it was 2021. I believe June of 2021, and I think I found it. I wasn't yet familiar with it, but I found it because I was looking for another country that had the Blu-ray of the Mothman Prophecies, because it hadn't been released in the U.S. And from that, I also discovered Breakdown. The other ones I bought were Fire in the Sky and Regarding Henry. And at that time, all of them hadn't come out in the U.S. And since then, I just loved the packaging of them. I loved all of the special features that they put on them and the care that they took, putting the disc together. And ever since then, I've been really big into them. I check every month what the new releases are, and I'm really big into their box sets that they put out, like the director and actor-centric ones, and really like the neo-noir sets. Ever since then, as probably a lot of you can identify with if you're big into physical media, once you start with a label that you really like, you sort of become addicted to it and can't stop.
Tell me about it. I know, Imprint before, they started off small, but now they're getting bigger and bigger, especially with the these new, how they call them, bespoken behemoth box sets that are coming out, like Never Ending Story, the Dune set, and now the Keep that's just come out. it's rare that a physical media company will do a Blu-ray company will do something so big now, which is incredible. But they also know physical media collectors will absolutely love these physical extras that come with it. Did you get any of the those big bespoke and behemoth box sets yet, Dustin or Celeste, or no?
No, it's too big for my wallet and too big for my house, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Is Imprint doing that new Halloween set? Am I remembering
They
that
are.
correctly?
That's
Is that
right.
going
They
to
are.
be enormous? Do we know how big that's going to be yet?
I have no idea, but it is a 7 kilo set. That's all I can tell you, which I think is around 15 pounds.
Okay.
So yeah, it might be that because I know I know it's like a jack-o'-lantern with the first 5 films in steelbook form and 13 discs in total. So it is going to be pretty big. But we're going to be doing an episode of that very soon to discuss the whole thing. So that's going to be interesting.
That's one giant pumpkin.
It is.
And it lights up as well. It's
It does.
yeah, amazing. But I think it just sold out. I think.
Yeah, it's sold out again. First 1,000 copies sold out, and then they released another 1,000 copies, and now that's officially gone. So there won't be any more. Who would have thought?
Halloween is like my favorite horror series personally. So I've bought like virtually everything that's come out. I've bought probably the first Halloween like over the years, 10, 15 times on every format.
Did you get the Imprint one?
I didn't get that one.
Oh no.
I know it kills me, but like I already have the US ones on 4K.
You gotta have the pumpkin.
I know, but I do have I do have like the Scream Factory pumpkin, which was nice from years back. But and then as far as like Neverending Story, like I love Neverending Story, but it was too big for me. And it was just so expensive. So I was just hoping that they might
Fair enough.
Especially shipping to the US, they did just re-release a more, I guess, economical steelbook version, which is pretty nice as well. So yeah, definitely check that out.
And next month they're releasing the standard one with the slipcover. That's it. So there's another version of Neverending Story coming out soon.
Nice.
We're lucky here in Australia. We have a big chain retail store that stocks all these releases, and they do a lot of sales. So here we wait for a sale, 20% off, and then we go pick it up. So
you guys get a nice retail store and reasonable gun control. That's crazy.
Oh,
Y'all really do have so much to brag about.
When are you moving down?
We'll see.
You're welcome here anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah, we'll see. I might have to take you up on that.
Yeah, it's sounding more desirable every day.
My goodness. Alrighty. Now, with this episode in particular, spooky season has officially begun, and we are going to be discussing probably one of the most controversial titles that Imprint Films have probably ever released, as well as probably considered, as Suzanne and I mentioned on the episode when this was announced, probably the best Exorcist Italian ripoff ever made, I think, in my opinion anyway. We're talking about Alberto De Martino's fantastic film, The Antichrist, also known as The Tempter in the US.
In your opinion, does the devil exist?
There's no doubt about it. The Pope himself reaffirmed it recently, and not as a concept of evil, but as a real presence.
Thank God you arrived.
She runs away the night she enters the convent and joins a sect of devil worshippers.
Was a sign of the devil, Uncle.
That's ridiculous.
Then why doesn't God make himself understood? The devil does, and clearly too.
That's enough. That's blasphemy.
You see, I've always said that Hippolyta has extraordinary powers.
Now, I haven't seen this film in a while before this imprint release came out, and I remember it shocked the hell out of me when I first saw it. And watching it again, it still shocked me to this day, and I just loved it. It's an insane film, to say the least. Like, I know I've seen the movies Beyond the Door, Satan, and other Exorcist ripoffs, but those are the two that I'm known very well. Yeah, Suzanne's holding a copy of Beyond the Door. And yeah, but this one, hands down, is the best one out of the lot, in my opinion. John, when did you first see The Antichrist?
Yeah, I was trying to think. It did come out. I remember the first time I saw it was probably I picked up a ex-rental VHS. There was a label out here called Palace Explosive, and it was quite famous or infamous. Palace Explosive had a lot of horror titles on there, a lot of sort of extreme horror, and it was a label from the 80s, but they became quite desirable, the VHS tapes. And so I think years ago I found it in like a bargain bin, and like, what's this? Antichrist. I had obviously her on the front, just looking really ugly with these flames around her. Yeah, and I picked it up, and just on a whim, I watched it, and I was, from memory, I was really blown away by it. That was a while ago, probably over 20 years ago. I found it for like $1 somewhere, and yeah, I really had a bit of an impact on me at the time, because I thought it's different. It's not like something like Beyond the Door. It's they call it a ripoff, but it really is its own thing. So so that's kind of what stuck with me, was that old Palace Explosive tape from many years ago. I found in a bargain bin. That's where I saw it first.
Absolutely. Celeste, when did you first see The Antichrist?
It would have been shortly after Kino put out their Blu-ray here in the States. I checked my letterbox and I logged it 2022, which I was kind of shocked it was that long ago. It would have been whenever it first went on sale, because if you're a Kino connoisseur, their titles usually go for sale for like $10, like pretty soon after they come out. So I just waited on that. And it might have even honestly been an impulse buy when I was just building a cart, getting to free shipping. I don't quite remember what was the impetus to actually pull the trigger on it. But I think this was around the same time I saw Malabimba, which is my favorite Exorcist ripoff, just the pornographic one that Vinegar Syndrome put out. And I think I was just like, "Ooh, I'd like to see another one of those." I could be getting my timelines mixed up. I'd have to cross-reference my letterbox logs for both of these films, but for whatever reason, I found it to be eye-catching, intriguing, etc. And it was probably only like $10. I think this was actually also when I cared about slipcovers too. So I was like, "Oh, I want to get that while I can still get the slipcover." And I actually watched it, which is crazy. I'm sure I'm not the only one who gets a box of titles and like they just end up on the shelf. But I actually watched it, and I remember it being pretty shocking and pretty tough to watch in parts. It's a really gross movie, but it's also really beautiful and also really disturbing. And I think it does things that are thematically interesting and I guess unique enough to differentiate itself from The Exorcist, which we can get into more later. But I was in a similar position as you, Tony, when I rewatched it, because there is one moment in particular where I was like, "Oh my God, I forgot about that." I like memory hold it or something. And I was like, that's okay. I just watched that again. So that's cool. It's a lot. So yeah, I think that's probably good on that.
Fair enough. Suzanne, how about you? When was the first time you've seen The Antichrist?
Well, in my intrepid exploration of the horror genre, I just picked it up when it came out on DVD here in Australia, when it first came to the home market, and I saw it and I thought, The Antichrist, I obviously need to see this, and just took it home, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, but it was actually cut here, I believe, that DVD release and maybe the VHS as well. I'm not sure. John would have to comment on that. But I believe this and the Kino Blu-ray is the first time I've seen it fully uncut. And what they cut from it generally was just some of the exposition, some of the moments building up with like Catholic imagery, etc. And it just works so much better with all that extra footage in it, the full original film, because I believe what was on DVD was much shorter and just all the more horror kind of stuff. But yeah, I got a whole new appreciation for it, seeing it in this particular release, fully uncut, looking just awesome. So, and I've watched it many times. I'm pointing here, audio listeners. I have an original poster here. This is a New Zealand.
I was going to ask if it was an original one.
It is, yeah. So it's a New Zealand one, and you can see in New Zealand they had to put these like big ass warnings on these posters: restricted, naughty, evil. Yeah.
Answer the challenge.
And when this came out on Kino on the Blu-ray, I was so excited. But I had to order it 3 times. It got lost in the mail like twice. I'm like, are you kidding?
I remember that.
Yeah, and one time I remember I got just this DVD in the mail, and it was some Miss Marple or, something very innocent and innocuous, addressed to some Dr. So-and-so, and I thought, he got the Antichrist.
Oh my!
So I really hope he enjoys that one. Yeah,
Oh.
I got his Miss Marple. He got the Antichrist.
I was just going to say, yeah, look, I think we got I was just remembering, I think we did get the UK print over here, which was cut. Yeah, it was cut down. So, yeah, you are right on that.
Yeah,
the VHS was definitely cut as well.
Far inferior cut of the film.
So they didn't cut any of the really... I mean, for the UK, they would have to cut the frog scene, right? I think legally they have to do that. Or was it mostly just like exposition? Because that's strange.
I think
they would keep in all the...
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, I'll need to go back, but I think that was cut too. Yeah, because animal quote unquote cruelty can't be in it.
Although it's not a real toad, we'll just make that clear. I don't know. No, it looks like a little puppet. Maybe it is. Maybe one of them is. I don't know.
Yeah, when I watched it and saw that scene, I sort of thought that it looked like it was fake. But
that would make me feel better. I thought it was real for sure. And
I thought it was. I thought
it, and I was like, God damn.
I was in the middle. I was in the middle. I could have sworn I thought that would have been It's definitely either a fake, but it looked a little bit more fake to me. But they did a really good job.
Looked convincing when they split in half. I don't know.
I think it's a plastic toad, because if you look at its face, it's a bit funny and it's a bit fat and kind of comical looking.
Okay, yeah.
Not that I've examined toads in great detail, generally speaking, but I thought it was just a little plastic prop that they keep using.
Well, that would make sense.
Because they do
if
put
it
it in her mouth.
UK, then. Yeah, I thought she fucking was taking one for the team on that one.
Oh boy. Now, Dustin, I know this is. Please explain your first time watching this film.
Well, yeah, much like Celeste, so I had the Kino Lorber version that was in the States that came here and never watched it. And then when the Imprint version was announced, I think it was a month where like everything else that was announced just looked really good. So I ended up buying the bundle that had it in it. So I had the Imprint version as well. But again, hadn't watched that copy either until I was invited to talk, about it. So I went into it not knowing anything really about it, other than obviously I had assumed that it was some sort of, inspired by The Exorcist. But other than that, I intentionally stayed away from knowing anything about it until after the first time I watched it. I didn't know what I was in for with the goat and all of that craziness.
Remember the goat.
Yeah, there's some imagery in this that you've probably never seen before, but I really did enjoy it. And even though obviously it was inspired by The Exorcist, and there are lots of parts that are obviously, borrowed wholesale from it, I also think it does a lot of things that are really interesting thematically, and it does go off on its own in a lot of different ways, the characters. And I also feel it was interesting. The first time I watched it, I felt like it was very dreamlike to me, and maybe that's because there are a lot of scenes that are involved with hypnosis and lots of imagery that's sort of fantastical. And when I watched it, it just had this, it just almost felt like I was watching a dream. And it really took me the second and third viewings to really grasp everything. By the third viewing, I definitely felt like I could, tell you everything about this movie. but I do really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. To be clear, I feel like I've been maybe given the impression that I don't like this movie. I actually do really like it. I liked it a lot the first time I saw it, and I rewatched it with the commentary last night, and I really enjoyed it. Again, the animal cruelty bit aside, I'm kind of used to that in these movies. So I'm not necessarily taking it as a knock against it. It was just pretty tough to watch, but I think that I tried looking it up. I don't see anything definitive, but I'm going to trust you that that's fake, because that makes me feel better. However, I just want to say, I want to defend ripping off a movie real quick, because how many adaptations of public domain works are out there? How many times are we going to do Dracula? You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with I think it's actually kind of cool to skirt get across copyright stuff and just kind of do your own take on an existing IP, and I would encourage it. So I think people say that a lot, oh, it's just a ripoff, that's somehow a knock against it, and I don't know, call it an adaptation instead if it makes you feel better. I think it's totally fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's
why I think it's actually really unique.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to use the word inspiration rather than rip off when I was talking about it, because I just feel like there's so many negative connotations to saying that, something's a knockoff or a rip off. And I feel like in most cases there's a lot more that's interesting artistically about each version of something that it really doesn't deserve called that. And I mean, there are parts in this though that are so similar to The Exorcist that it's really inevitable that you can't not think about it. The pea green vomit, and even her demonic voice sounds a lot like the Reagan voice, I thought. But that said, yeah, I totally agree with you, Celeste, that there's a lot more to it than that. I don't like saying that something's a ripoff.
Mm-hmm.
The keynote cover doesn't help because that's the US theatrical poster, and it looks more like an Exorcist knockoff. But I like the imprint cover because it shows the more gothic side of it.
And that cover right there, I'm like, where was that in the movie? That is not.
I know
that was not in the movie. Not at all.
I know exactly. And so people might get the impression it's another Beyond the Door, but it's definitely not.
I'll just quickly read a quote from De Martino. He actually thought his film was better than The Exorcist. So this is just a quote I saw on IMDb. But The Exorcist is a movie I would add all room and kitchen. A trick movie, let's say. L'Anticristo is a film with a wide scope. It has the Vatican, churches, masses, cardinals in it. It has so much more, doesn't it? It's more cinematic. So I got a laugh out of that.
All right. I've just defended it.
True.
And I also do think it's cool that it's actually in Italy. So you get that little bit of prestige and authenticity, but also okay, relax. Come on.
Yeah, that's a little tough for me to hear because because as you know, The Exorcist is my all-time favorite horror film, and it's a tough one to beat. But that quote, I can see where De Martino was coming from.
Oh, he's saying, "Hey guys, we've got the franchise on like Catholic Terror over here.
Well, they do. I mean, the first, and I know you're a fan of it, but the first Exorcist movie was an Italian movie. It was one of the Demon from 1963. So, I mean, who copied who? That's the question.
Is that Il Demonio?
Il Demonio, yeah.
Yeah.
Which definitely inspired The Exorcist.
Oh, absolutely. And that was included in Severin's folk horror box set.
Yes,
I believe.
It was.
The first volume. I mean, that's
fun.
Is it a folk horror?
Here I was being like, I've never heard of it, and it turns out I own it. It's right behind me. That's cool.
Yeah, you'd have it. It'll be in that set.
Check it out.
Yeah, it's folk horror, Exorcist. Yeah.
It's more a drama about possession and this kind of belief in this Italian village. So it's showing that in Italy and the beliefs, customs, superstitions. So is it a horror movie? I think it's intended more as a drama movie, but it's massively interesting, this film. And whether it's a coincidence or whether it did directly inspire The Exorcist, there are lots of similarities.
I have the folk horror box set, and I have not watched that one, so I have to get on that. I'm very curious now.
No, have I? No, I've got the box set as well.
The quality film.
Damn, look at us.
It's good. It's a good one. It's very, yeah, I agree, more of a drama, but there are sort of overlying. It deals with possession, I guess. One of the first ones, definitely. So yeah, definitely.
It's unsettling. Watching. It's creepy. It's unsettling.
Very unsettling. Yeah,
it's
for a 60s
extremely
film.
Unsettling. It's black and white. It's gritty. I haven't seen it since a VHS transfer, so I actually haven't watched this new transfer. But I'm sure it looks so much better in the. Well, of course, it will look better in the Severin box set. I was going to say, I had a quick story. Celeste mentioned Melon Bimba, that film. So I have a funny story about Melon Bimba, which I'm sure I've told you, Tony. I used to seek out these films, and it was after I first got The Antichrist, and I showed it to some friends, like, hey, you've got to see this. It's really wild. And we had a really good time watching it. So, of course, I had to seek out another film. And I got hold of a VHS transfer of Melon Bimba. And I'm like, hey, guys, I've got another exorcism. And I put it on, not realizing that it was like a porno film. And everyone's like sitting around. And then it's like, what are we watching? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure, like, it's Italian. They do these things, And then we've got like full bowls and like, everything showing. And my partner just says, what are we watching? I didn't know it was a porno, I swear. So I sat everyone down to watch this like hardcore movie. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, and had to take it off. So then I had to go home and like just watch it on my own to see what it was all about. But anyway, I mean, it was so hard to find out about some of these films in the past. You just had to watch them. And unfortunately, I sat a whole lot of people down to watch this hardcore film.
I would say that that's fortunate, but, I have a different perspective on this than most, I think.
Well,
hopefully they enjoyed it a little bit.
No, I don't think they did. But now I'm that person. And that's okay.
Of course. And another possession film that came out before The Exorcist and The Antichrist is one we actually discussed on the Imprint Cast show dedicated with about the possession of Joel Delaney. That's another one that was a really good really good possession film.
Yeah, that one's excellent. Yeah, I watched that maybe a year ago, and again, I really didn't know what to expect, and that one was very powerful and very unexpected, the places that it goes by the end. And it actually has some similar themes to the Antichrist.
It did.
Especially,
and how could we forget Beyond the Door? Yeah, anyone a fan of this?
I don't mind it. I actually didn't mind it at all.
Beyond the Door. Is that what that is?
So yeah, this is the one
I think it's good.
with the really annoying, sassy, jive-talking children, and you're just rooting for the devil to like kill them. But anyway, that's just my opinion on that one. It's like those children are more annoying than Bob.
That's another one. I have the Arrow release of that, and I have still not watched it, but I have watched Beyond the Door 3.
Oh God!
Oh, the train one.
Yeah, it's on the train.
Amok.
Well, yeah, it's interesting how each one of them is completely unrelated to the other.
Well, I think Mario Bava's Shock was called Beyond the Door 2, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's a better
talk
film
about
in
being
my
unrelated. Yes.
Yeah, that one I've got. Mario Bava's Shock. I got that one right here. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the main inspiration for this film was this 1973 masterpiece directed by William Friedkin, The Exorcist. I saw it for the first time when I was 11, and it really scared the shit out of me, I'll tell you right now. But then I watched it again, and then I just was just obsessed with it. And I absolutely adore it. Like, I've always found the theatrical version of The Exorcist to be the better version than the extended version you've never seen before. That one that was released in 2000. To me, the theatrical version definitely had the that mystique. It's something about it that made it work better. So I don't know, John. What version of The Exorcist do you prefer?
Oh yeah, the theatrical. It's more. I guess it's what people saw back in the day, and I just the CGI faces on the walls and stuff. It just takes me out of it.
It does.
I'm not a big. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it. Especially look, they did put the spider walk in, but yeah, I'm just not a big fan of that version. But for a while there, that was the only one available, which is very frustrating. So, yeah, theatrical definitely is the one for me.
Oh, for sure, definitely. Celeste, what about you? What was your favorite version of The Exorcist?
I think I've only seen the director's cut, to be honest.
Okay.
And I find it hard to imagine the film without that spider walk scene. So I think that I've never put on the theatrical. But I think next time I watch it, maybe sometime this month, I'll go ahead and do that and see if that makes a difference for me.
It's interesting. It has a completely different color palette as well, because he went in and he changed all the colors for that. But once again, that's all that was available. Like The Warriors, you were kind of stuck with the director's cut. That's all for a long time. So yeah, but it's definitely a curiosity. And we saw it down in Melbourne. Remember that, Tony? We all went.
We did, yes. We saw the theatrical cut in Melbourne at the Acme, which was a great experience, definitely. Hosted by dear departed friend Lee Gambin, who we will talk about more in this episode very soon. Suzanne, what about you? What's your favorite Exorcist release?
Definitely the theatrical. I agree with John. The kind of extra stuff does, that's it, take you away from it. That's the perfect way of putting it. But I have to say, I really like the sequels as well, particularly The Exorcist 3. Which is an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion.
Agreed.
One of the greatest films ever made. And controversially, I also really, really like number 2. And I argue with Simon from Explosive Action about this constantly. But yeah, I'm a big fan of number 2 as well.
I personally have no issues with number 2 either. I really enjoy it. I really liked it.
It's bonkers,
to say the least. Dustin, how about you?
I saw what do they call it? The director's or the uncut version or whatever. But yeah, I saw that in the theater when it came out in, what was it, 2000 or 2001? And yeah, I haven't seen it since because I just did not like that version at all. I was so used to the theatrical version. And the crab walk scene is cool, but the other changes that they made I didn't like. And if I'm remembering correctly, they changed the ending and they sort of make it much more like a happy ending with like, it's almost cheesy the way, I think don't they even like quote Casablanca or something?
They do. Oh, Casablanca or something else. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Similar to that. They're like,
Yeah.
or what's the movie that I think this is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship?
That's Casablanca.
They say that, I believe, at the end, and I just had to roll my eyes at it. I love the quieter, more introspective ending of the theatrical.
Same here.
And then as far as the sequels, I love Exorcist 3. Part 2 is just fascinating. There's a lot of stuff that I do really enjoy about it, and it's one that I find myself returning to a lot just because it's so different and visually so beautiful, and I love the score. But then every time I watch it, it never really lives up to what I want it to. Like it's never as good as I want it to, but yet I keep watching it.
It's a fascinating sequel, I'll tell you that. But the funny thing is, with The Exorcist 3, for instance, I prefer once again, I actually prefer the original theatrical version, the studio cut, which is one of those rare instances that a studio interfered version is actually better than the director's cut. Would you agree?
I haven't watched the director's cut version. I enjoy the theatrical so much that I haven't delved into that one yet.
Yeah.
I think my Blu-ray, I've been doing some investigating real quick. I think the copy that I have just on regular Blu-ray does not include the theatrical cut. So I guess I need to get my hands on this 4K that has both.
Oh, really?
I'd be really curious for you to watch the theatrical, Celeste, because
the first time I watched it, I just checked out a DVD at the library in high school or whatever. So maybe that was a theatrical. I'm not sure. I really couldn't tell you, but as far as I remember, it's been the same film every time I've seen it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been a theatrical cut because the director's
that's
cut
all that was available for
years.
Yeah. It came out as part of a limited edition Blu-ray set. So, and some sets don't have the so-called director's cut. But yeah, I agree. It's Tony. It kind of drags on a bit, the so-called director's cut. It just it's a really good pace, the theatrical. So this is the one time the studio was correct. So yeah, definitely,
absolutely. Suzanne, what are your thoughts on the theatrical of the cuts of The Exorcist 3?
Oh yeah, I mean it's interesting to see that footage cut back in. Like I love getting that insight into it because I'm such a fan of the film, but I'll always defer to that familiar theatrical cut of it because I've just seen it so many times. I guess that's what you get used to, and I agree the pacing is really good. And
yeah.
Now
we're going to be talking about probably the first inspirational title for that was inspired by The Exorcist, which is the film we're discussing, The Antichrist, starring Carla Gravina, Mel Ferrer, Arthur Kennedy, Alida Valli, and of course George Coulouris, and directed by Alberto De Martino, and of course the cinematographer who did a great job was by Aristide Massachesi. My apologies for mispronouncing it, but of course.
And that is actually Joe D'Amato.
That's right.
Joe D'Amato.
Yeah. When I first saw this movie, I loved it, as I mentioned earlier. But Suzanne, what are some of your thoughts about the Antichrist in total? What are some of the things you can talk to us about?
Well, I've said I love it, basically. I believe it wasn't the first Exorcist so-called knockoff. Maybe that was Satan, that film.
Yeah, Satan. That was
other kinds of films, but of course, all these films came out riding the wave of the success of The Exorcist, which was in 1973, and with this coming out in 1974, I believe it didn't take long for these Italian knockoffs to come out. The producers of The Exorcist actually sued this film for plagiarism, which is interesting, but they lost the case. And I mean, maybe that's why De Martino made those comments, those kind of, my film's better, basically, because maybe they were jaded about being sued. I think it's not just an Exorcist knockoff. That's a derogatory term. We've already talked about that. I think it has so much to offer, and you need to watch it several times really to let it sink in. And it's interesting on that first watch how repulsive it actually is. And I'd forgot that because I've seen it so many times. But in another episode, I believe we were talking to Jim, maybe. Who was it? I can't remember who it was, but he said he watched it and thought, oh, it was hard to watch. It was disgusting. And that's what I like about it, that it's sweaty and disgusting and about bodily fluids and feral, which you don't see very often. And I think that is such a great performance, because often in films, women just look beautiful, but she goes all out, ugly, feral, revolting, and I love it. I love that. Yeah, it's on 100.
Yeah, it was Ron that we spoke to about that one, and Ron cannot watch it. It's one of those films. It's one of Ron Pedersen, who's been on our show before. He watches literally everything, but he cannot finish The Antichrist, which I find fascinating. Like, he's seen Salo, he's seen many of these crazy films that are out there, but he cannot finish The Antichrist for some reason, which I find extremely fascinating. How many people interpret it.
I was just gonna say, is it bad that it didn't really faze me that much? Like,
I think it's pretty gross. I don't know. I think there's only so much vomit I can handle in one sitting, and I'm just kind of like, woof, it's a lot.
I think the grossest thing to me, oddly enough, was just when she starts frothing at the mouth, and just the way that it, I don't know, the way it looked, that really sort of repulsed me.
Is that at the dinner table?
Yeah.
You know that's meant to be semen.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, I did not get that from it. Oh wow.
That's what I mean. This is just like wild. And later I can go into some themes and some of the real life stuff behind what's actually happening here, because all of this is based in kind of Catholic and religious history and stuff. But yes, I that is meant to be semen.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear the rest of your reading of it, based on that. Because maybe there's other things that I missed just because I'm not as familiar.
So Celeste, let's start with you. What about what did you get out of watching The Antichrist?
Okay, so I like that it goes ahead and ones up The Exorcist and how transgressive and disgusting and disturbing it is. I don't know, even watching it a second time, that whole satanic ritual sequence is pretty shocking. You know, just like putting a whole frog head in your mouth, which, okay, granted, is not a real frog, but still, it's a lot. And then I love the way it's edited too, because you see her go in to kiss the goat, which is what you assume is what's going to happen, right? It's like, okay, you got to kiss the goat's ass. Like that's a Satan thing, sure. And then it cuts to her like in the bed, and she's not just kissing, she's like fully like rimming and tugging the air and stuff. It's like, damn, she's really going for it with that goat. That's crazy. I grew up Catholic, like very Catholic, and I have a lot of trauma with that. And the introductory sequence is actually pretty disturbing to me and was very uncomfortable for me the first time I saw it. So like right from the jump, we're dealing with some pretty shocking and uncomfortable imagery, and it doesn't really let up for the entirety of the film. I'm not entirely sure what the film is trying to say necessarily, and I'm not sure how much of it is coming down to studio notes or censorship or what have you, but we definitely start off with like a critique, I would think, of like intense religious fervor, and like, you know, you got like old ladies like licking the floor, and like there's all this like really, it's just the way that it's shot like a Mondo film, you know, and it's just like really kind of gross and disturbing, just kind of watching this like really extreme kind of religious intensity in seeing the ways in which people are exploited. I'm going to try not to just copy everything that was said on the audio commentary I listened to, but I do think disability is a really interesting theme in this film throughout. And disability in general is just something that has been present in my life a lot more recently and something that I think about a lot. But in terms of what we're trying to say about religion, right? Because in the beginning, I think I at least get the sense that this is going to be something that is highly critical, or at least subversive in its handling of Catholicism and religiosity in general. But then by the ending, we just sort of get your standard, like, oh, we did it. Jesus saves the day. Like, they kicked out the evil demon and this lady is fine now, you know? And like, that's kind of it. And I think you could argue, and I think a lot of people do argue, that The Exorcist, the original, does the same thing, and that it is just kind of straightforwardly a Catholic film. And I think it is to a point, but at least in the version that I remember watching, at the very end, I think that there is strong suggestions that the demon has not totally left, and that the priest is not fully won, and like Satan has not fully been cast out. You know, it's a little bit more ambiguous, and it I think, if I'm remember, it's been a minute since I've seen it, so please correct me. I think if I'm remembering the ending correctly, I almost got the sense that like what they did didn't actually work, and like it's still present, and it's still going to be a thing going forward, right? So I think that that kind of creates a subversive message that sort of says that this sort of like faith and even the best efforts of the Catholic Church aren't enough to like get the results that they want, right? And again, that might just be me bringing my own biases and baggage to art, right? But this one, it feels like the ending is a lot more straightforwardly pro-Christian, pro-Catholic. Just kind of takes it on. It's almost like apologizing for like what it's put you through in the runtime, you know, to kind of justify itself a little bit. Like, oh, no, don't worry, we do think all that shit is bad, and like it's gonna be fine, you know. I see a lot of inspiration from Rosemary's Baby as well. Like that whole sequence feels a lot like the sequence in which Rosemary is raped in that film by the devil, and how it's kind of skirting the line between dreams and reality. So we're definitely dealing with a high pedigree in terms of inspiration here. Like we're pulling from really great stuff. I'm hoping, Suzanne, that you can talk me into liking this more, because I do really like it, but I do think it's a little bit thematically shallow and just kind of dealing in shocking imagery and beautiful imagery, which, to be clear, I think is enough to have a dope fucking horror movie. Like, that's kind of what I want. I want some subversive imagery, and I want some beautiful shots and some, you know, discomfort and what have you. Like, I think that's enough, but I think it is missing that key ingredient to make it a little bit more emotionally resonant, or perhaps thematically complex. So that's my little spiel and sort of take on the film as a whole. But I'm really curious to hear everybody else's take. So I'll pass it on to, I'm guessing, Dustin.
Yeah, for me, pretty much the opposite of you, Celeste. Like I didn't grow up in a religious household, and I know, you know, going back to you know, films like The Exorcist, I know that a lot of people who do grow up in religious surroundings, like they it impacts them more, like on a visceral level. I think it disturbs more. For me, The Exorcist is one of my all-time favorite movies, but there is that sort of distance, I guess, that I have with it, only because I don't really relate to a lot of what is discussed in the film. So I watch it more as just a fictional movie. I don't really. But as far as the Antichrist, I find it really fascinating. I like that they take the protagonist. You know, she's an adult, not a 12-year-old child. So let's say she's, you know, around 30 or so. And I like that it was interesting that it sort of suggests that a lot of the reason why I guess she was more susceptible to being possessed by these demonic forces was because she was more vulnerable, not only because she was partially paralyzed, but also just so heavily repressed in her life. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think she really fully remembered the source of like the car accident that happens in her childhood until she's hypnotized. And then also she's just very heavily sexually repressed, and right from the get-go, like she's very, you know, jealous and possessive of her father and doesn't like that he's with, has a new girlfriend, and she's also very close to her brother. And yeah, there's also like the repression of these like suggested sort of incestuous themes at the same time. And I feel like all of that put together, it just makes her more, I guess, the perfect sort of conduit for these demonic forces to affect her. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, you actually reminded me of another point I wanted to make, which also real quick, I think this does feel like a film dealing with as many extremities as we can cram in there. I like that we have bestiality and incest in the same movie in case one wasn't enough, But I actually do think maybe, and this is why I like doing these podcasts and these conversations, by the way. I find that I often make connections and sort of develop theories like in real time as I'm talking about them. But I think that this film, I think a lot about how a criticism levied at contemporary horror films is how ever since Hereditary or ever since the Babadook or whatever, like it's just like, okay, great, another horror movie about trauma, about grief, whatever, But I think horror inherently is kind of a little bit about trauma, or at least the things that can traumatize us or have traumatized us. And I think that this
has always been the case, like that. Yeah, like that.
Yeah. I think it's more on the nose lately. It's more overt in some films that I can name or think of. But I think that you could easily read this as a take on generational trauma, because she's like supposed to be like the reincarnation of this witch who was like burned or then like possessed and all this other stuff. And so it could be, if we're simply looking at religion as the aesthetic lens through which we're exploring these themes, as opposed to the thing that we're analyzing or skewering or promoting or whatever, you could see this as like Satan being personified in like generational trauma, right? And how this is a story of conquering that and like self-empowerment and this, that, and the other. So I think if you look at it through that lens, I'm actually coming around a little bit more on liking it. So.
Yeah, John, how about you? What about you? What are your thoughts on, from your religious point of view, from the Antichrist?
Yeah, I think exactly what I thought as well, what Dustin said about the repression of the character. Definitely a sexual repression going on there, and there's a lot of jealousy from her family members, and I guess obviously her father, and so and there's a lot of, I guess, particularly Catholic guilt with religion as well, and particularly shaming her in particular. There's a lot of that going on in the film, and I think all those sort of emotions and suppression just adds up, and it makes her an easy target, I guess, to be possessed. But yeah, I just think it's very different, and like I said earlier, I find it a lot more gothic than The Exorcist, and some of the scenes, I guess the ritual scene is incredible. Just visually, it looks amazing as well. It's very unsettling, and it takes possession in a much more disturbing route. And I guess throughout the film, there's a lot of, I think, like you said, Celeste, there's a lot of almost Mondo type imagery, particularly with the opening sequence, which shows a lot of religious imagery throughout the film, kind of cutting away back and forth, and sort of through rituals and almost like sort of celebrations. It's very unsettling. And I was going to say as well, the thing I like about the film, it has a really eerie, I mean, the score was done by Morricone, the great Morricone, who's done so many classic films. And the interesting thing about Morricone is that sometimes he'll do a really, just great sort of catchy score, or he'll do a more surreal score. And this is definitely on the more surreal side. So a lot of the sound as well is very unsettling too with the film. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think it just stands on its own as its own sort of thing. But yeah, it's a film I really like, and the more I watch it, the more I appreciate it as its own sort of gothic take on the possession. But yeah, it's I really like it. But yeah, it's very, very unsettling.
It is unsettling. As you said, John, with Morricone, he didn't do it alone this time. He actually composed a score with Bruno Nicolai, who was another great composer. And what I love about the music from the Antichrist, it has this beautiful keyboard score, which I adore it. I love that. I love that keyboard music, as well as violins. The violin thing, it was really it adds some kind of tension to it, especially the violin sequences. But yeah, with me growing up in a Greek Orthodox household, my parents and my sister were more religious than I was. I'm consider myself an agnostic. I don't know. Atheist may be a little bit too much, but I don't know. I'm in the middle. I'm definitely an agnostic for sure, even though I was raised Orthodox. But watching this film, I was told you can't watch these type of films because they're very offensive to your beliefs and all that. What beliefs? I do. I'm me. I watch what I want to watch. I don't care about what my beliefs are and what other people think. Look, I'm me, and I just watch whatever I want. But when I saw the Antichrist for the first time, there were some crazy moments, as we mentioned. That ritual scene, that was definitely one of the most memorable sequences in film. Like as Celeste said, like with Rosemary's Baby, that was another memorable sequence. But the Antichrist upped the ante quite a bit, to say the least. I've always loved this movie. I know people think we're going to go to hell watching it, that we love it. There are some people out there who do believe that, but I adore it. I don't care. That's the thing. I let people. I just love horror movies, and this one's definitely one of the best films from the 70s, in my opinion. I've always loved it.
Yeah, it definitely is. I forgot to touch on as well, but the talent behind this film is incredible. Like I said, the score, the director, the cast is I mean, you got a phenomenal cast. I mean, this is not a B grade exploitation cast. These are like A grade actors and actresses as well. So there's just something about it that adds that level of professionalism to the film. Like it could have been because Beyond the Door, in comparison, is just a little bit cheaper and tackier. But this is a really sort of A grade production, and like I said earlier, just some of the shots and the visual, the style of it as well is pretty incredible. But yeah, it just has all the elements that make it, what could have been a pretty cheesy film ends up being quite a serious and powerful film.
Absolutely, the casting, I couldn't agree more. Mel Ferrer, as we know, married to Audrey Hepburn at the time, as well as this legendary character actor, mind you. His name is George Coulouris. He actually played Father Mittner, that priest who was out and about getting donations for the church. He starred in some of the greatest movies from the 30s and 40s from Warner Brothers, especially. I know he starred in many movies with Betty Davis, like Now Voyager, Dark Victory, and he was also in Casablanca, I believe.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention, Carla Gravina, who plays the lead role of Hippolyta. I thought she was excellent. She really, from what I understand, I think in one of the commentary tracks, they talked about how she really wasn't a genre actor at all, and she just thought that this would be an interesting role for her to tackle because she had never done anything like it before. Not that there's probably that many roles open for what she does in this movie, but she really gives herself over to just really making it as believable as possible. And I was really impressed with her.
She was great.
I love her. She's all in. She's all in for this. And apparently, as you can imagine, it was very uncomfortable for her. It was a very difficult and physical role for her to play, and she found it quite draining physically and emotionally, and she said that she wouldn't take this kind of role again. She didn't think she could do it again, and fair enough, because she just goes hard on this one.
Well, I don't know what else there is for her to do like this after this film. So.
Yeah, but as I said, a lot of actresses, it's about they're put there to look beautiful or a certain way and be graceful and as eye candy, basically. And this performance is just completely the opposite of that. And she's just not afraid to be ugly. And it's just awesome. She's not afraid to be offensive and disgusting and have semen oozing from her mouth at the dinner table and spread her legs on the dinner table. Like, it's just like wild. And I love it. I love her. I think it's a great performance. Talking about the themes, there is a lot of that repressed sexuality, which you're talking about. And as Celeste said, I think generational trauma is definitely one that I picked up on in this film very heavily. And they even talk about it a little bit in the film. So what makes this different from The Exorcist? Superficially, the child is possessed in The Exorcist, and I guess that's, you know, an emotional point for lots of people because the child is meant to be innocent, etc. And people say, oh, this is just The Exorcist with a woman. But in placing a woman in this role as the possessed person, I think that's very deliberate, and it raises a lot of things about religion, about female sexuality, and all these kinds of things. And supposedly, I mean, she has these things that make her more susceptible to being possessed. Well, I disagree with that, because that has been the age-old misconception that women are more susceptible to the devil, to the lures of the devil, to being possessed, which is not true. That's something that's been used against women for centuries to basically persecute them and maintain social order, to maintain patriarchal social order. And the Inquisition is the obvious example of that, which I can talk about a little. But as Celeste said, the opening of the film is really confronting, and the film is actually bookended by these two kind of pieces of religious imagery. And it's really interesting in that it contrasts all of these Catholic rituals, which appear quite strange and horrific, to satanic rites, basically, because satanic rites are traditionally written about as these disgusting, arcane rituals. But then we see these Catholic rituals appearing just as strange and kind of almost just as scary, but minus the goats and toads. They're beseeching the Madonna and these other icons, and they kiss and lick at the feet of the Madonna, just like Ippolita licks at the goat. And Madonna and the witch are these opposing feminine pieces of iconography. They're two different archetypes. And this film really deals with women, and specifically women's trauma. That's just what I got from it. And again, as Celeste said, that comes with my personal experience, baggage, etc., in being a woman. So Ippolita is from this aristocratic family. She lives in this big Baroque mansion, and we begin to get the hints of incest, which you mentioned, and also this kind of abuse within the family. And of course, incest is a very kind of Freudian theme, but is often used to show a discontent like in a family, but also reflecting a higher social level, that there's something just not quite right, or some kind of corruption socially or within social order. This theme of trauma and generational trauma has been handed down through the family, and they raise that. As Ippolita's possession progresses, the house and its furnishings become key in attacking people, and this is kind of like the House of Usher. So it's this symbol for the crumbling family, and they're even attacked by a room full of Renaissance paintings that depict mythological pagan scenes, with this particular focus on an image of a classical Pan, and he is, of course, the horned god. So we're referencing the pre-Christian pagan rites, which actually influenced the medieval view of witchcraft, but also this dark place, the forest, where traditionally that kind of female power comes from before Christian religion. But the family is a metaphor for the dysfunction of patriarchal society and institutions such as the aristocracy and the church, and particularly their treatment of women, which Celeste touched upon. The fate of Ippolita's ancestor is this dark family secret, and all the men seem to know and collude about it in the office, but she doesn't know about it. It's been kept from her. And this secret basically becomes a revelation on her journey. And going back to, you know, women supposedly being really susceptible to the charms of the devil, well, between 1450 and 1750, anywhere from 35 to 50,000 people were executed for the crime of witchcraft. And around 80% of these people were women. So Ippolita is dealing with this legacy, and it's a women's legacy, violence, trauma, and her possessed state is the ultimate corruption brought down upon her through the generations. And in her house, you'll notice there's this really striking image of this marble corridor full of these busts of men, the great ancestors that seem to watch over her and what happens within the house in this kind of way of judgment. So it's like, just like the ancestors who judged and condemned her as a witch or her past life. The film is using the witch as a symbol of violence and misogyny and abuse that's been carried down, and it's something that women are still dealing with, and we're talking about it a lot today in terms of issues about gender-based violence and respect, and all of this stems from this collective history and these terrible atrocities of the witch trials. And returning to the disability point, I think it's interesting that Ippolita can't walk, and this could be seen as a woman without independence. So she's at the mercy of the men in her life, and they seem to infantilize her. But when she's possessed, she's free. She can walk. She becomes sexually liberated. Her first act after possession, after her ritual greeting of the devil, is to run through the countryside. And this woman is a product of Satan. And Lucifer has been a symbol of liberation for women, basically, through art, through literature. It has been viewed as that. And her short, kind of chic haircut not only mirrors Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby, but also her ancestor who had her hair cropped before she's burned. And to crop a woman's hair has been used as punishment for all kinds of transgressions throughout history. Yet in the 70s, when this film was made, cropped hair was a symbol of modernity and women's liberation. So to crop the hair is actually an act of female agency. And this is what Ippolita is ultimately looking for in this film. And to the big finale in the Colosseum, which again is this symbol of pre-Christian Rome and also a place where many Christian martyrs died, I guess this poses a question: what did they die for? And what does the cross stand for? And how has it been corrupted? So she falls at it, and I totally agree with Celeste's idea that it's the kind of la happy look, we saved the day. But it is an extremely blasphemous film. It does not hold back, especially in such a Catholic country. So I think you could possibly look at that ending as a question, almost. That's how I saw it anyway. I don't know what you think. Sorry, I've just rambled there wildly.
You're
but
fine.
Go for it.
That is so enlightening, Suzanne. Like that, and so fascinating. Like I feel like I understand even more about the film, and about what it's trying to say, and about its themes, and Maybe I want to raise my rating on it now.
I think all that stuff you're saying is so true, and that's what I think makes the ending a little bit frustrating for me, is that it feels like it kind of undercuts or throws that all out to kind of appease censors or general audiences or whatever. But I guess maybe that is something I can say post The Witch coming out, where like we can just finally just, that's part of why I love that film so much, is that it just leans in all the way and doesn't chicken out at the end. Like I feel like is sort of expected in these sorts of films, So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the ending. I think it works if you're thinking about it in terms of overcoming generational trauma, and I think it sort of cheapens or takes the wind out of the sails of its themes if you're thinking about it in terms of like liberation from religion. And I think it kind of wants to be both, and I think it can be both. It just sort of doesn't quite work all the way with the ending, I guess.
I think these films skate a really fine line when they're being made and being censored. So it is a super blasphemous film. It is super blasphemous. It's super sexual and disgusting and massively offensive to religious people. So I think when it comes down to it, they're really limited in what they can do. So they can only say as much as they can say without being completely shut down. But yeah, I did see the end as a bit of a question, just because of the context of that particular place. Like, it's kind of like looking at this place and saying, what have you done?
Yeah, I think also the way it's presented is definitely as a happy ending, but I think you could also read it as a negative ending, like she's being shackled, so to speak, like by being liberated of this possessive force. She's actually, what's the opposite of liberated? She's becoming imprisoned in like these things that were taking over her life before. Is it clear if she can still walk at the end? I don't remember.
Yeah. So I think so. She does walk.
Okay.
But that can be seen as, I guess, a release of this trauma, because the film is very surreal and about these deep psychological things. So it's Freudian. We have the incest. We have the psychologist coming in. We have the surreal dream sequence and these symbols of that as well. I mean, you can look at it as a release. I looked at it, like I said, as a question, asking the cross in this kind of place with so much history in Rome, just basically look at what you've done to women. That's kind of what I can get from it. Yeah, but it's interesting that she is liberated by this Luciferian force, which has traditionally been a liberating force in the arts, etc.
Exactly what I was going to say, Suzanne. They kind of, I guess, on the edge, skating sort of back and forth. I mean, with the censors in Italy, so what they could get away with. So I guess it needs a happy ending, possibly to please the censors. But it's interesting, the ending, I don't know, it is sort of a, I guess, quote unquote happy ending. But when I saw it, I felt that final scene, the rain, if the devil's whatever is being released from her, she's back to her old weak self. I don't know, that's how I saw it. She kind of like collapsed at the end. I don't know if like now that she's, I don't know if it's not very clear if she was successfully freed from this sort of, I guess, quote unquote demon, but it seems like she's back to her old weak self. So I don't know, that's just how I saw it. But it was interesting you mentioned the Spanish Inquisition, because I felt this film had more to do with something like a Nashi film. The more I was watching it, some of those sort of witch trial sort of Salem Gothic films, which kind of came to mind, which was definitely differs it from The Exorcist, because it's more of a guess sort of Gothic witch tale as well. So yeah, that's definitely a difference from The Exorcist.
So I can talk a little about the witchcraft and the goat rimming if anyone's interested.
Oh, yes, please.
I'll never say no to tell me more about, or would you like to hear more about goat rimming? So yeah, go for it.
When we discussed this, when it was first announced, I just said, I can't believe I get to say in a podcast, goat rimming. Who would have known that that phrase would enter into the vernacular. So
Indeed.
only with this film. I think these flashback scenes to Ippolita's ancestor as a medieval witch, they're a particular highlight for me, and they really strongly reference medieval and Renaissance art. And these scenes have a sense of surrealism and the fantastic, from the appearance of the clouds, which are a common symbol in surrealist art, and they represent the beginning of a dream or subconscious state. They also represent the intangible and impermanent nature of life. And then we have these really gaudy, unnatural palettes used to light the scenes of the witch's sabbat, which are nightmarish and otherworldly, and they remind me of Francisco Goya's paintings of witches and the sabbat, and I just absolutely love this imagery in the film, and it's so well executed. So much detail has been put into creating and reenacting the witch's sabbat as described in medieval texts such as the Malleus Maleficarum or the witch's hammer, written by the German inquisitor Heinrich Kramer, though this text does not specifically mention the word Sabbath. It describes the assembly of witches. Prior to this book's publication, people were punished for heresy rather than witchcraft, and penalties for witchcraft were actually fairly light. But this book detailed and endorsed the investigation, torture, and punishment of witches via burning. People began to see witches as this real threat, and though the church did not officially endorse the book, others like it were certainly instrumental in the persecution of witches. And women were accused of being the dominant perpetrators of witchcraft, and witches were characterized as having entered into a pact with the devil, having engaged in sexual relations with the devil, taken to flight in order to attend a gathering of witches presided over by the devil himself, as well as the practice of magic and the sacrifice of babies. Many misconceptions about witches and witchcraft actually stem from this period and similar texts. One particular ritual depicted in lurid detail in this film is the rimming scene, known as the osculum infamae, or the kiss of shame. And this is the way a witch greets the devil or is initiated, as described in Francesco Maria Galzo's Compendium Maleficarum from 1608, where she must kiss the devil's behind, or kiss his anus, or other mouth, as it was called, and this was to pledge her dedication. In the film, the goat acts as a proxy for the devil, and the proxy could also be a cat or a toad. And we've talked about the toad. It is a reoccurring image in this film, which refers to the toad as the familiar of witches and a creature associated with the devil, going right back to this medieval period. In 1608, the description states the attendants riding flying goats, trampling the cross, and being rebaptized in the name of the devil while giving their clothes to him, kissing his behind, and dancing back to back, forming a round. The witches' sabbat also involved an orgy where the role of sex was not for pleasure, but to corrupt and to revel in corruption. In the Antichrist, Ippolita's rimming of the goat is just really strongly implied, but we all know what's happening. It's really explicit. And the orgy takes place around her, and this is a really beautifully choreographed sequence. If you watch it in detail, it's almost dance-like. The visual references to medieval woodcuts from the Compendium Maleficarum are quite apparent. It's like they've taken these scenes straight from these books and old artworks. And of course, most of these rites and rituals were actually from the imaginations of church men and inquisitors, or recorded as confessions from people under extreme torture after being fed strong suggestions about what they should say. Few films so perfectly depict this medieval perspective of the witch and communion with Satan, which is actually what I like so much about it. There's just so much research and detail in it. The film then moves on to those contrasts, as I mentioned, between Catholic rituals and the witch's Sabbath. So there's just a little bit of, explanation behind what we're seeing in these particular scenes.
My contribution to that is that goat rimming sounds like the name of like a war metal band or something like that.
They've definitely leaned heavily on that imagery.
As always, Suzanne, that information, that's a treasure itself. We love it. Thank you.
Very valuable.
Well, that's all right. I'm just sure so many people have watched that film, and when they bring up the goat, they're like, hey, what's going on? But that's like a real thing documented in history.
It's accurate. And it looks like in that scene, I keep going back to it, but it looks like a painting, like just the way it's all.
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
The way it's composed, yeah, it's like a historical painting. It's phenomenal.
I think you're right that Francisco Goya is a big sort of visual reference for the production design there.
Definitely.
I have a giant blanket of the Witch's Sabbath painting off screen here, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, that's the vibe for sure.
Amazing.
Wow. Dustin, since this was your first time watching the film, what are some of the extras you like from this release?
Yeah, I listened to both of the commentary tracks. Both of them are very fascinating. Have so much useful information in them. The new commentary that was specific to the Imprint disc is with Kat Ellinger and Madeleine Le Dispenser. And Kat Ellinger, I mean, both of them were great, but Kat Ellinger I'm a little bit more familiar with, and I know, she never disappoints with her commentaries. She's just a wealth of information. And then the other commentary with Lee Gambin and Sally Christie, before I put the disc in, I didn't realize that Lee Gambin had done a commentary on it, and it sort of took me aback a little bit, just because, he passed away about a year ago. And I think probably most of us, he made a big impact on in so many ways. And so, since he did pass, like, I haven't really listened or watched any of his features that he's done since then, just because I just didn't really feel ready to do it. But I really wanted to listen to this commentary, and it reminded me all over again why he was just such, not only a great person, but just such a wealth of film knowledge, and brought so much enthusiasm to everything that he talked about. No matter what he said, like, he would just make you so excited to listen to it and to dive into whatever he was talking about. And such a great commentary. So I would highly recommend that one if you haven't listened to it. Going back real quick to the Kat Ellinger one, I remember they were talking about how prior to the uncut version, they had actually, like, the cut version of it had cut out all of the opening scene with the procession happening, which really, like, because it starts so powerfully with that, like, I can't imagine the film not having that, because it adds such a texture to the film right from the very beginning, and a sort of realism to it that that was interesting.
It's thematically really crucial too. That's an ill-informed decision, I think.
And then the other thing that I'd like to mention is, it was a video essay it's called Too Vulgar, A Display of Power, the Enduring Phenomenon of Exorcist Ripoffs. It's a video essay by film critic Andy Marshall Roberts. That one was fascinating. It really took a deep dive into all of the different films that have been inspired by The Exorcist through all of the decades since the 70s all the way up basically to present day. And there were some that I had never even heard of before. I was like making notes of different ones that I want to seek out. That was really informative too. I liked that one.
That was my favorite extra actually on this release. That was incredible.
Yeah.
John, what are some of your favorite extras?
It's a stellar release, and because we did our best of year of releases for Imprint, I think it was late last year, and this title came up a lot, as I think a lot of us, this was our favorite release for 2024. And I think just because I keep banging on, but just the cover art alone is phenomenal. I think it made our top covers as well, because it's just that beautiful painted image instead of the US poster. Like I said, it's a stacked release, and both commentaries are different in their own way. The Lee Gambit one I listened to, I didn't re-listen to it for the show, but I listened to it when the Kino disc came out, because I think it was made for the Kino release originally, and it's very informative. Both of them just give a phenomenal wealth of knowledge. And like you said, Dustin, it's a bit hard for me to listen to Lee commentaries now as well, because we personally knew him. And Tony, I don't know if you remember, but I have vivid memories where you picked up the Antichrist Kino release from Lee in person in Melbourne.
I did.
When he worked at what was that store?
Minotaur.
Minotaur, that's right. You actually, and he had our copies ready, so it's a little bit tough to listen to, but it's a phenomenal commentary because Lee has just a wealth of knowledge, and Lee also did a great bunch of extras for the Possession of Joel Delaney as well, and he joined us on that episode, and so he has real great knowledge of Possession films. They're both great, and echoing what you said, Dustin, the Too Vulgar, Display of Power visual essay that made I think one of my top extras of the year, because it's just there's so much detail, and I didn't know there was a wealth of knowledge of so many Exorcist riff-offs, and same with myself. I had not heard of most of them as well, so I actually made note of them too. So those are definitely my favorite extras on this release, the commentaries and the video essay. It's a really stellar release overall.
The video essays I believe are both because there's two video essays I believe, and they're both new to the Imprint version. I don't think they were on the Kino, and so I think for those alone they were such good extras that I'm so glad that I was able to pick up the Imprint version as well.
It's worth double dipping because they're not on. I know that Kino brought out on 4K, but it was missing a lot of those extras on the 4K. So if you love this film, it's worth getting the Imprint release for the extras alone.
Definitely.
It was also interesting. There's a new interview with actor Remo Gironi, who plays the brother Filippo. I always enjoy revisiting with interviews actors looking back on works that they've done so many decades ago, and I enjoyed catching up with him and seeing he actually really enjoyed the film and really looks at it with a lot of reverence, which I enjoyed. You never know what you're going to get when you have older actors. They might not be as positive about some of the work that they've done, especially if it's something like this that is so profane in a lot of ways. So, but yeah, so that was a good extra as well.
Celeste, how about you? What are some of your favorite extras?
I just have the Kino disc, and I think there's an interview either with the composer or about a score, something like that. I don't really remember it. I watched it at the time when I first bought it. And then there's the Lee Gambit commentary, which I don't have the personal connection that you all have. So that piece of it is sort of missing from my experience with it, but it is a really good commentary. There are definitely chunks of it where there's no commentary happening, and a few times I thought I had accidentally switched the audio track or something, but it is really good. And
I think they just got caught up watching it.
Yeah, it's really good. And I don't know, it does something that I think about a lot when people pass is the knowledge that goes with them. And it's so obvious to me that this was a person who just had a breadth of knowledge in this subject that I aspire to. And it's tragic that he's no longer here to share that with us. But in a sense, it's also sort of beautiful. And I'm really grateful that he had the opportunity to share as much of it as he did. He's on so many commentaries and different works, right? So not everybody is afforded that opportunity. And so I'm really glad that for somebody as knowledgeable and deserving as he was, that he did get that opportunity. So I'm going to echo the recommendation of the commentary. But unfortunately, I don't have the Imprint release, so I have not been able to catch up with these other featurettes that sound really good as well. From my limited experience with Imprint, it seems like they do their due diligence in getting really good supplements. So I'm sure that this is no exception.
Do you have any of their titles, Celeste?
Yeah, I got the Wicker Man one behind me, and then I've got the Gambler Hard 8, I think, and the Straight Story. I think those are the ones that I have.
Suzanne, what about you? What are your favorite extras?
Yeah, I just love that Imprint brought this out with so many extras for such a weird, Italian genre film. I think that's just so cool, and Imprint does really go the full Monty with the extras, which I absolutely love. Yeah, I mean, look at all the commentaries. The one with Kat Ellinger is wonderful, and Madeline La Dispensa, they're just fantastic. And, I have a lot of the same interests as them, so that's a beautiful commentary. Lee, of course, who is a massive fan of this film, and as everyone's already said, his enthusiasm was infectious, and that's what we'll miss about him so much, just his infectious enthusiasm, which you just couldn't help but get excited when he talked about film. He could just really convey that so beautifully, and I'm glad that they put his commentary on this as well. I also enjoyed the video essay on the Exorcist ripoffs because it's just a lot of fun. That one, lots of fun, informative, wonderful, but there's just so many on here. It's just so cool. So, yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, Imprint really outdid themselves with this release.
They sure did.
They really rimmed the goat with this one.
You just couldn't help yourself, could you?
That's the pull quote for the episode. That's what you put at the very beginning.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna use that. They really rimmed the goat on this one. I love that.
No worries. Now, before we go, I will quickly mention my favorite extras. As I said, I called Too Vulgar Display of Power, the enduring phenomenon of Exorcist ripoffs, my favorite video essay of last year from that Best of Imprint episode. And it's still great. It's incredible. And of course, I watched the Antichrist Raising Hell interview with Alberto De Martino and Ennio Morricone about the music. That was a really good extra. But of course, as everyone said, hearing it again, it was a bit more. It was difficult for me because, as John mentioned, we knew Lee personally, and it was hard. It was a hard listen this time round. But as you said, Suzanne, his love of cinema, his passion for film in general, definitely infectious. So yeah, he is sorely missed, and it was a great commentary. Alrighty, I think we can call this the ending of the episode. Thank you all once again for being a part of this. Dustin, where can people find you on social media?
Oh yeah, I'm on Facebook, just my name, Dustin Putman, and Instagram, DPPJ, and on Letterboxd, which is just my name as well.
Okay, that's great. Celeste, how about you? Where can people find you on social media?
Sure. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and Patreon, you can find me at Celeste de la Cabra. And on Letterboxd, you can find me at Inhuman Ecstasy. I've been doing as of last week, I am streaming every week now. That's the goal anyway. So catch me on a live stream, usually Saturday evenings, Eastern Standard Time. Going to have a lot of short form content going up in the next week or so, doing a lot of reviews of new releases, new films in the theater, that sort of thing. So if that sounds cool to you, come hang out.
Absolutely. Suzanne, how about you? Where can people find you on social media?
Well, you can fly to the Sabbath and add me on Letterboxd. I am Dirty Pillows, and I'm also on Instagram under my name, Suzanne Boleyn. And before we go, Dustin, can you just show us your book and just tell us or tell everyone where they can get your book if it's still available?
Oh, yeah, sure. So
Go for it.
This is my book. It's the Fright File, 150 films to see before Halloween. So yeah, this is the perfect time to dive into it. But it's just basically what it says. It's a collection of 150 essays that I've written about different horror and horror adjacent films that I think are good for any time of year, but yeah, definitely around the spooky season. And I sort of say that it was basically 15 years in the making, because a lot of it was from the different reviews that I wrote throughout the years. And then when I was creating the book, I also wrote a bunch of new essays on different films. So there's new content in it as well. And yeah, people can pick it up on barnesandnoble.com, or even though people don't like it, Amazon.com. It's available there as well. And it's available on paperback and hardcover.
Excellent.
Awesome.
And John, where can people find you on social media?
Also on Letterboxd, just my name, John Mathews with 1 T. But I'm also on Facebook with on the Imprint Collections fan group page. You can find me there. And yeah, those are the two main places I'm most active on.
And jump on the fan group, everyone, and tell us what you think of the Antichrist.
Absolutely. Please do. We love hearing everybody's thoughts on Imprint releases, but with this one in particular, it's going to be fascinating to hear what everyone's thoughts are.
Oh, we'd love to hear your thoughts on goat rimming. So get online and let us know.
Tune in. Sound off.
Okay. And you can find me on Instagram and Letterboxd under FilmNut79, and of course on the Imprint Films Blu-ray Collections fan group and Imprint Cast Facebook pages. And that's where I'm most active as well. If you need to ask anything film related or imprint related or even movie related, John and we'll answer your questions, and we'll do what we can. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for watching, and hope you all have a great day, and we'll speak to you soon. Okay.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you for listening to this latest episode of Imprint Cast. Imprint Cast is a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network. Thank you for listening, and hope you have a great day.